The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Game Podcast Network is brought to you by Jannik Fantasy. The brand new offer for new customers. Play just $5, get $50 bonus funds. Use promo code SGPN. And welcome, everybody, to the Tennis Game Podcast here on the Sports Game Podcast Network. It is currently early Sunday morning, around 12:30 a.m. Eastern Time, here on September 7th. I'm Rosa Reichel once again going solo for this pod. Time to get into the final U.S. Open episode. Time to get into the men's final taking place on Sunday between Alcaraz and Sinner. So we'll break down that matchup in a few minutes. Before we get into that, though, a reminder for some housekeeping purposes. First of all, help support the show by like subscribing on YouTube. And reminder, the show is also available audio only on Spotify and Apple. So you can support the show a couple of ways, but leave a rating and a review on Spotify and Apple, and leave a like and subscribe on YouTube. So either way, once again, support the show a couple ways. And if you want to listen to the podcast audio only, you can check out Spotify and Apple. Plus, a reminder, check out the actual merch store on the SGPN website. We have a lot of great tennis merch. We have sweatshirts, we have t-shirts, and we have mugs. High quality, very affordable. Check out other shows too. And overall SGPN content. For example, we have this shirt right here, which I do like a lot. So check that out too. A lot of merchandise, very comfortable, very affordable, and it's even cheaper because we have a discount code right now for the start of football season. If you go to the actual merch store, use the code football at checkout, 25% off everything in the merch store. So quarter off everything, no questions asked, if you use the code football at checkout. Plus, a reminder, check out the free roll football contest, which is back. Free to enter. Pick every NFL game ATS. $3K for first place, $4K if you're a member of the Patreon, and sign up at sportsgamepodcast.com/free roll. Once again, sportsgamepodcast.com/free roll to enter the contest. Plus, we have a nice Survivor contest, which is a $100 entry fee. Winner take all. Sign up at sportsgamepodcast.com/survivor to enter our Survivor contest. Moving on to the actual recap of what happened for the last episode for the women's final in the U.S. Open for Saturday. Overall, decent episode. Ended up hitting the lock, but we did lose the dog. For the lock, nice win with Sabalenka team total over 12.5 at -105. We ran it back from the semi episode, got it done again. Nice win there. Not easy. Sabalenka actually served for the title, got broken. We needed her to. She got broken, that eventually did run away with the tiebreak, but still got the job done as she finished with 13. However, did get hooked on the dog play, went with the alt over 22.5 at +110. If you took 21.5, the safer play you got there, but either way, we ended up losing by a hook. Needed Anisimova to win another game in that first set. She led 3-2, and she lost 4 games in a row, and the 6-3 kind of killed us. But either way, point is we needed a third set. She made it competitive, didn't get there, and Sabalenka did eventually win in straight sets. So picked up a split there. We did pick Sabalenka to win, though. I know that she was favored by a decent amount, but we thought she'd end up getting the job done there in 3. Got it done in 2, but nice job by her, winning her second straight U.S. Open title and her 4th Grand Slam title overall. So nice job by her. It was definitely up and down early. Both players were pretty, I'd say, out of sorts. Bunch of breaks early. And then Sabalenka realized Anisimova couldn't keep the ball in play. And Sabalenka started just avoiding errors and winning points. That's how she won the first set. Then eventually Anisimova did settle in a bit. Still felt pretty erratic from her the entire match, but that was expected with her game plan of going for broke on every shot. Got to a breaker, did end up losing. Nice effort, though, by Anisimova. Fell short. Nice job by Sabalenka, though. I'd say salvaging the season by winning a Grand Slam title after losing in the semis or the final in each of the first 3 Grand Slam titles this season. But nice job by her getting the job done. And once again, thank you to Sabalenka for choking while serving for the match in order to help us get that team total over. So appreciate that. But either way, nice job by her to win a Grand Slam title again. Second straight in the U.S. Open. Now, for the actual match in itself, I feel like I kind of summed it up there. Sabalenka was in control for most of it, and then Anisimova had some moments, but Sabalenka kept her nerve, and it was really just her keeping the ball in play, some solid court coverage points, but Anisimova's second serve kind of got torched for the entire match, and Sabalenka just did a better job of limiting the errors, and that's how she got the job done. Nice job. Either way, we'll move on to the men's semifinal recap that happened a couple days ago. So for the semis, we had one straightforward match, and we had one that went 4 sets. However, I feel like it was in a different order than what people thought. People thought that the straightforward one would be the center one, and the very competitive one would be the Alcaraz one against Djokovic, but that was not the case. Alcaraz won in straight sets, and he ended up kind of coasting for most of it. He had a breaker in the second set where he was actually down 3-0 in games in the second set. Broke back and ended up surviving in the tiebreak, but either way, felt like Alcaraz was definitely the better player throughout, and it felt like Djokovic, once he lost that second set, ran out of gas. That's how it kind of felt over the course of that match. Joker, we thought would lose. I mentioned before, Alcaraz minus 1.5 sets was about minus 150, minus 160. It was my favorite play in the match, and it got there. But Joker, simply put, at the stage in his career, just cannot win a Grand Slam title if he has to beat Alcaraz and or Sinner. It's not going to happen. He beat Alcaraz in the Aussie Open. That's great. And then, of course, we know Sinner won it anyway. Joker has been a phenomenal story this year by still being a semifinalist every single time, despite being up there in years. The problem is Sinner and Alcaraz are too good, and as a result, we have another expected final between Alcaraz and Sinner again. So we'll see what happens. I'll get into that match in a second, but for Djokovic, it's kind of a weird season for him, because on one hand, you could argue that any year without a Grand Slam title, the only reason why he's still playing is disappointment. However, based on the expectations with Sinner and Alcaraz being just the best players by a mile at this point, making the semis in all 4 Grand Slams at 38 years old is still very impressive. So tip of the cap to Djokovic. He's not going to win another one, so just going to be honest here. But he won the gold medal last year, which was the final piece of the completing tennis puzzle. He was hoping for another Grand Slam. It's not going to happen, but making the semis, no shame in that. So good for him. But we know Alcaraz did win. He looked great, dominated most of the match, and he ended up winning in straight sets. Then you had the surprising drama-filled match between Sinner and Felix. We did pick Felix to break in the match at minus 120 as the lock that got there. He broke one time. Did blow 9 out of 10 break points, though, so he actually had some chances, especially in that fourth set. Had some chances, did not break, and then Sinner broke immediately, and Felix was completely cooked physically, and he lost 6-4 in the final set. Sinner, though, coasted early. Then Felix got the job done, played a phenomenal set in the second set, and then Sinner kind of opened the door again for a pretty easy third set, and then Felix made him work for it, but eventually Sinner found his way to win a couple of big points, survive a couple break points, get the break immediately, and Felix ran out of gas. But either way, I'd say Sinner looked good. Didn't look as dominant as we thought because straight sets was minus 200. But still, point is Sinner got the job done, and we have the very predictable final of Alcaraz and Sinner. But Felix did show there are some, I don't want to say holes in Sinner's game, but there's definitely a certain, I'd say, level that Sinner's played at in the past, which proves that when he's on, he can beat anybody. We saw it in Wimbledon when he beat Alcaraz easily in 4 sets in the final. But I think right now with his form, he looked good against Musetti, faced 7 break points, ended up facing off against Felix, faced 10 break points. There have been some openings, and Sinner's been good at closing them for the most part. But I do think you could question if Sinner is in better form right now than Alcaraz. It's a fair question to ask. I'll dive into it more when we get into the final. But Sinner didn't look as dominant as we thought. Felix, though, good run for him. Made the semis. Nobody thought he would. Won a set against Sinner. Nobody thought he would. He lost, but that was expected. Nice job, Felix. Good run. And we'll see what you do moving forward. But either way, point is we have the expected outcome, which we actually predicted. No real shock here. But a reminder for the outrights for the actual men's tournament, we did quite well in those. For the actual outrights, we got 3 out of 4 right. I mean, first quarter, we had Sinner in the very, very easy prediction of minus 300 to win the quarter. Second quarter, we got wrong. We had Zverev at 2-1 and Khachanov at 950. Third quarter, though, we had Djokovic at plus 180 as the only option, and that got there. Fourth quarter, Alcaraz. We also took Shelton just in case at 5-1, but Alcaraz at minus 220 got the job done too. So 2 massive minus prices, and Djokovic got the job done there for the quarters. But we know the common theme here for the Grand Slam outrights. I've been preaching this all season. I'll say it again. Stop betting people not named Sinner and Alcaraz. It is a waste of money. We took 2 people, again, like we did in Wimbledon. We took Sinner at plus 110. We took Alcaraz at plus 195. We automatically win. So for the outrights, once again, we automatically win. We only took Sinner and Alcaraz. Stop wasting money on Zverev. Stop wasting money on Shelton. Stop wasting money on Fritz. Don't bet anybody besides Sinner and Alcaraz. It is a waste of money and a waste of time. So I'm going once again to hammer home the point. Only bet these two people until anybody else wins a Grand Slam title. Because right now we have had about a year or two straight of just Sinner and Alcaraz owning everybody. And we are doing it once again here in 2025. So for 2026, remember, when I repeat the same information, we are only taking Sinner and Alcaraz. We are taking nobody else, and you should do the same. Anyway, point is another winner for the outrights because we picked pure chalk. What else did you expect? And now we move on into the breakdown for the final between Sinner and Alcaraz taking place on Sunday. Now, before I actually get into the breakdown of the final, I want to give a brief shout out. I have to actually pull up his name because I have to make sure I don't actually butcher it. But there was a pretty incredible achievement that happened in the world of wheelchair tennis that I want to talk about quickly because it might be the greatest tennis achievement of all time. And I wanted to briefly give a shout out to the guy. So I wanted to briefly mention it. I want to pull up the name first. So if the name doesn't ring a bell to you, that's fine. It's wheelchair tennis. I know it's a gambling show. However, you have a guy named Takedo Oda, who might have had the greatest achievement in tennis history. So he's 19 years old, and he completed the Golden Grand Slam. He has won all 4 Grand Slams and a gold medal before turning 20. Shout out to that guy. I wanted to mention it because he won the Grand Slam officially as he won the U.S. Open yesterday. So shout out to him. Oda, who's 19 years old, won all 4 tennis Grand Slam tournaments and the gold medal. Shout out to you. Wanted to mention that. That might be the best achievement of all time. Before the age of 20 is just completely out of pocket. But nice job by Oda getting the job done. Wanted to mention him in separate because I feel like nobody really noticed, but I wanted to mention it was definitely worth mentioning in passing. Nice job, Oda. Congratulations. You have to wait in order to legally drink in America, but you've won everything there is to win in wheelchair tennis besides doubles. And in the doubles, I believe he lost in the finals in every single Grand Slam event. So, yeah, he's already the greatest he's already the greatest singles wheelchair player of all time, and he's not even 20. So shout out to you, Oda, for getting the job done there. Anyway, moving on to the preview of the men's final on Sunday. Before getting to that, though, reminder brought to you by our sponsor, which is MyBookie.ag. Using to bet on anything, including football, college football, NFL. Use the prop builder. Second to none. Motto is simple. Bet on anything, anywhere, anytime. Kind of sums up the platform perfectly. Use crypto for deposits and payouts. When you sign up for a new account, use the code SGPN for 100% bet back bonus up to $500 for new customers. MyBookie.ag promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Check out their models for college football, for the NFL, for MLB, for WNBA. To be honest, though, we know NFL starting, or I should say it started this week, and we have a bunch of action on Sunday. Check out Rhythm for some props and for some model stuff. Recommend. Also, check out the leaderboard with the actual model combo reminder. They give out weekly cash prizes just for tracking your bets in the app. Once again, the bets don't actually have to win. You just have to track them. So it's pretty simple to do. It takes 5 seconds. But track 5 bets of any type from any model that you build, and you can win $1K. Also, a reminder, use the 7-day free trial that we have with Rhythm with a promo link. Go to sportsgamebox.com with them, get your 7-day free trial. Once again, that is sportsgamebox.com with them, get your 7-day free trial. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished going through the recap of the semis for the men and went through the recap of the women's final with Sabalenka winning. Time to move on into the main event, the final episode of the U.S. Open, the final match of the U.S. Open, the men's final, once again, between Alcaraz and Sinner. Now, for this one, we know that they've had a couple of epics this year. The French Open is one of the best matches ever played, and the Wimbledon final was arguably underwhelming, but it still went 4 sets. The point is, we've seen them go head-to-head many times this season, and hopefully this one does live up to the once again, hype. I know I just spoiled the lock there at the end, but I feel like it was obvious. I've been mentioning this every single time they play. Alcaraz and Sinner, we will keep blindly taking the over. It's kind of how it goes. We expect a war, and hopefully it lives up to it. So if you ended up actually paying attention to the screen and you're not just listening to it on, once again, Spotify or Apple, I just leaked the actual lock. I was going to say it anyway in about 20 minutes. But the point is, I do like a pretty competitive matchup either way. Now, for the pricing, Sinner's favored, minus 127, Alcaraz plus 107 for the spread. I see minus 1.5 for Sinner, plus 1.5 for Alcaraz. The over-under in games that are at around, I'd say 40.5, minus 120 on the over, give or take. Shop around, though, different prices for the over, so keep that in mind. Most books have 41.5 at around minus 110 apiece. So if you want to go for some over-unders, shop around, you can find different numbers. Now, for the actual set spread, you have Sinner, minus 1.5 sets at plus 150. Alcaraz, plus 1.5 sets, minus 190. The over 3.5 sets is minus 250. The over 4.5 sets is plus 170. And for the straight set wins, if you want to try it, you can get Sinner in straight sets at plus 380. Get Alcaraz in straight sets at plus 480. Alcaraz minus 1.5 sets is plus 200. Now, they faced off on hard court a couple of weeks ago in Cincinnati, which I'm kind of going to toss out because Sinner was down 5-0 and quit. He had some type of stomach issue. He couldn't really play. I kind of have to toss it out. He was clearly below 100%. He couldn't perform, and as a result, I kind of have to toss it out. But Alcaraz has been rolling. He won Cincinnati. He's been to the final here, and he's trying to make history. It's unlikely, but he's trying to do it. He's trying to become the first male player ever to win a U.S. Open without dropping a set. Somehow it's never happened before. You figure with that many iterations, it would happen at least once, but it hasn't happened yet. And Alcaraz has been coasting for the entire event. So for the actual path for Alcaraz and for Sinner, Alcaraz will go first. He has once again been cooking. He has been perfect, not dropping a set. Beat Joker in straight sets in the last round. Ended up beating Leheshka in straight sets. Beat Rinderknech, beat Darderi, beat Bellucci, and beat Opelka. All 3-0, no questions asked. Now for Sinner, he's had a bit of a tougher go. Still pretty easy, but nonetheless, did beat Capriva in straight sets. Beat Popperin in straight sets. Beat Chapo in 4, his first test there. Beat Bublik 6-1, 6-1, 6-1. Beat Musetti in straight sets, and beat Felix in 4. So Sinner's only dropped 2 sets. They've both been the best players here by a mile, and that's going to result in what should be a fun final. Now, for the matchup in itself, we know Sinner is a great hardcourt player, best hardcourt player in the world. He won the U.S. Open last year. He won the Aussie Open each of the last 2 years, and he won the ATP Finals last year. So the point is he's definitely, I'd say, the best hardcourt player when he's fully on. However, he called for a medical timeout in that match against Felix, where he had a stomach issue. He looked fine, but at least pointing it out, he definitely had something he was dealing with, and Alcaraz coasted against Djokovic. So the point is, Sinner, I understand why he's favored. However, based on the actual pricing and based on the form, should he be the favorite? To be honest, I don't actually know if he should be. I think that Sinner and Alcaraz are worst case scenario a pick'em here. If you would argue that Alcaraz is in better form, I'd agree with you because he's been perfect, not dropping a set, not having medical timeouts. Well, he did against Darderi, actually. But since then, he's been fine. And the fact is, he ended up beating Darderi 6-0 in the set after the timeout, so I guess he was fully fine anyway. Point is, though, Alcaraz, you could argue, should be a pick'em, maybe even a favorite in this one. But I think minus 110 apiece sounds right to me. So the line's pretty close, but do I want to lay it with Sinner right now? Not really, at minus 128. Alcaraz has been playing out of his mind, and Sinner, once again, has been good, but vulnerable at times. He almost fell behind in a break in the 4th set against Felix. That might have gone 5, and that could have been a problem, perhaps. But Sinner and Alcaraz tend to have wars. I'm picking a war, but I do think Alcaraz right now looks like the player in better form. So to shock some of you, because I know that I always pick Sinner on hardcourt, I think I'm going Alcaraz in this one. For the pricing, at least, I do think that the pricing feels off. I think Alcaraz not dropping a set shows how good he's been. It's not a matter of bad opponents. He's simply been playing his best hardcore tennis of his career. And I do think Alcaraz, whether it involves some mental edge over Sinner, I know Sinner beat him in Wimbledon, but still, I think Alcaraz has proven that when he's on and when Sinner's on, he can definitely frustrate the hell out of him and maybe win it outright. So based on the head-to-head advantage, which is definitely in favor of Alcaraz, Alcaraz with the actual numbers in the head-to-head, including Cincinnati, which was a retirement, but still, Alcaraz in 6-2 in the last 8 meetings. And I do think that Alcaraz, after beating him in Cincinnati, which I know you could argue doesn't really matter that much, The point is he showed, at least for himself, he can handle Sinner on hard court, which is a very big, I'd say, milestone that most people on tour can't actually say. Alcaraz, of course, can. He beat him on hard court many times before. U.S. Open a couple years ago, beat him in Shanghai last year. He's been successful more than anybody else on hard court against Sinner. For the pricing, I'll go with Alcaraz here at plus money. I think it should be a pick 'em completely. So whoever was a dog I would take. But I think minus 128 feels pretty steep to me. Give me Alcaraz and the over in this one. For the tie breaks and everything, tiebreaker in the match is at minus 220, and the over 3.5 sets is minus 250. I got to take the over. I mean, you're looking at the history here, and they've had so many meetings that have not ended in straight sets. 6 of the last 7 meetings, not including the retirement in Cincinnati, have not ended in straight sets. I see that happening again. For my prediction, I'm going Alcaraz in 5. I think that he ends up outlasting Sinner. We've mentioned this before on the show. When Sinner has to play 4+ hours, his record's not very good. And I do think that Alcaraz will be able to force this into deep waters. And if that's the case, we know Alcaraz, record-wise, is the best 5th set player of all time in the history of the sport. So based on that, I'll go with Alcaraz in another epic. I think it will go the distance. It won't be as good as the French Open because that match is almost impossible to match. But still, I do think that you're looking at what should be another competitive 5-setter. Give me Alcaraz in 5. I think that's a pretty solid angle to go for plus money. But the longer the match goes, the better of Alcaraz will be. And I'm picking this to go the distance. Give me Alcaraz in 5 as my thoughts for this one. But for the actual matchup in itself, if Sinner wins, would I be shocked? Of course not. He's Jannik Sinner. The guy's an absolute monster. I see Andrew mentioning, who I would potentially my favorite play for this one, which is going for either guy to win and both players to win a set, because that's definitely the opportunity you can go for to drastically increase the value on the play. So once again, reading the actual prices, Sinner's minus 127, give or take. Alcaraz is around plus 107. If you throw in the combo of both players to win a set with the money line, once again, the classic FanDuel special that I have just been rolling with for the entire tournament so far. If you want to go for the combo, you can get the Sinner to win the match and both players to win a set at plus 178. You're saving about $1. And for Alcaraz, you turn plus 108 to plus 220. Yeah, I think that's where I'm going. Once again, until we see one of these guys bury the other one in a Grand Slam setting in straight sets, I'll keep picking it to go 4 or 5. They faced off 5 times in their Grand Slam careers. Every meeting, all 5, have not ended in straight sets. Give me it again. Give me a 4 or 5 setter, but I'll pick Alcaraz to win in 5 as my thoughts for this one. Anyone's going to wrap it up for the preview of the final time we're on into the Lock and Dog picks. Before we get into the Lock and Dog, reminder, they're brought to you by our sponsor, which is Alric Fantasy. Use Best Ball, which hopefully you joined. I know the sign officially ended. Hopefully you got in on that because there were $15 million in prizes. But if you miss it, that's fine. Check out the, once again, Pick'em entries, which you can create when it's 500 times your money. So check that out. For Pick'em entries, they have a lot of stuff for tennis. Aces, double faults, breaks of serve. They have even over-unders for games. They have spreads. They have a lot of stuff for Underdog. Check that out if you want to, once again, make a tennis entry. Also, use the new offer for new customers. Play just $5. Get $50 bonus funds. Use promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Novig, which is America's #1 sports prediction market. Since Novig is an exchange, you're getting the best prices in the market. They're available in 35+ states. Also, a brand new deal with Novig down the app. When you bet just $5, you'll get $50 in bonus funds. If you use promo code SGPN, once you can get on the action with the promo code SGPN at Novig. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished going through the preview of the men's final between Alcaraz and Sinner. Time for the Lock and Dog picks. For the lock, I actually leaked it accidentally on the show on YouTube about 10, 15 minutes ago. So you already know what it is, but I'll give my case here. It is the over, but I did buy it down from 41.5. I saw FanDuel at 38.5, minus 138. I'll take that. Most books have around minus 150, minus 160. I like the price here, 138. I'll take it. Now, for the actual match in itself, said before, they've had a bunch of marathons in their respective careers. 6 of the last 7 meetings, not including the retirement in Cincinnati, have not ended in straight sets. And All 5 career Grand Slam meetings between them have not ended in straight sets. Pair that with the odds for a breaker and the odds for over 3.5 sets, and I think that the over is definitely the play here. Tie break in the match is minus 220. Over 3.5 sets is minus 250. A 7-6 and a bunch of 6-3s, and you're still fine because a 7-6 ends up getting you obviously to 13. And if you end up adding a bunch of 6-3s in there, you'll end up with 40. So I do think you're looking at a good spot where 1 breaker and 4 sets should be almost a guaranteed win here. And I do think you're going to get that in this one. But for the actual pricing, for the tiebreak and for the over 3.5 sets, and for the history, all 5 Grand Slam meetings not ending in straight sets, I got to take it. Give me the over 38.5 games here at minus 138 as my lock. For my dog, I am going to go back to it. I thought about Alcaraz money line, but you know what? I'll get greedy with it. I think Sinner, even if he does end up losing, will win at least 1 set. He's minus 950 to win a set, so he better win a damn set. But I'll go with the Alcaraz to win and both players to win a set at plus 220 on FanDuel. Alcaraz won 6 of the last 8 meetings, and I do think that he owns the head-to-head for a reason. He does have a certain style of play that can really frustrate Sinner. He's not dropped a set yet. He's been playing great tennis. I think he's going to drop a set here. Once again, no male players ever won the U.S. Open without dropping a set. So I think that once again, Sinner will do some damage. I think it'll be a very fun match either way. But I will go with Alcaraz to win. I think he's in better form and he's healthier right now. But I think Sinner gets a set at least. He's minus 950 to win a set. Alcaraz money line's plus 108. Basically a same game parlay with those two, and I'm getting 220. I like the price a lot on that one, and I do think based on his form and based on Sinner being a bit vulnerable with the injury timeout, with Alcaraz not dropping a set in the entire event, I'll make a case for Alcaraz to win, but I think 108 you can do better than if you actually just add the stipulation of Sinner winning a set, who's the best hardcourt player in the world. Give me Alcaraz to win, and both players win a set here as my bolder dog play. If you want to play it safe, Alcaraz money line might be the move for you as the dog, but I'll go for glory, plus 220 for Alcaraz to win in 4 or 5 sets. So once again, the plays here for the men's final. The lock's going to be on the over 38.5 games at minus 138 on FanDuel. For the dog, I'm going to go with the Alcaraz to win and both players to win a set at plus 220 once again on FanDuel. That's going to wrap it up for the show. Now, a brief schedule announcement and update. We have a couple of weeks off, actually, or a week and a half off or so. We have 2 events coming up in China. It is officially the Asia swing for tennis, but we have Chengdu and we have Hangzhou. They start on the 17th. Of course, Sunday right now is the 7th, so the events start in 10 days. So we're going to be off for about a week or so. We're back to get into the outrights for those. But if you're looking for any tennis matches or any actual outright episodes, you might want to check out either the WTA or the Challenger circuit, because the ATP kind of goes dark. You have some Davis Cup stuff going on, but either way, we will not be having an episode next week, so check your schedule. We will be back, though, before those 2 events start, but once again, Chengdu and Hangzhou start on the 17th. Do not look for an immediate episode right after the US Open. Anyway, until next time, I'm on Twitter, Reichel Radio. Good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.